Well, last year, more than 1,000 people in New Orleans were hit by a driver who didn't stop.
Well, some were even killed in hit and runs, including a 31-year-old walking her dog on St. Charles Avenue.
Now her grieving mother is making it her mission to change the statistics and make sure Christina Larsen's death marks the beginning of change here in New Orleans.
Life is precious. I do not want one other family to go through this. It's pure hell. It's pure hell.
Krista Larsen knows hell, knows loss. 10 years ago, her husband died after an illness. And last year, the Minnesota mom got the devastating call that she'd lose her daughter, too, at the hands of someone else.
I am not going to let Christina die in vain.
Christina Larsen loved New Orleans. She was a graphic designer at Nola Couture. She had a warm circle of friends, beloved family back in Minnesota, and a mom whose grief has turned to grit.
Get that data, and then let's put it out there, and let's start doing something.
What keeps Larsen up at night is the number of hit and runs in New Orleans. In 2021, according to New Orleans police, 1,130 people were injured by drivers who took off, a number that may actually be higher because injuries may not be reported to police or may be realized later. 9 people died in hit and runs last year. Larsen's daughter is one of them.
To me, how do you not stop for a human being in the crosswalk?
February 27th, 2021, 7 p.m., St. Charles Avenue. 31-year-old Christina Larsen was out walking her chocolate lab, Hubert. At Harmony Street, they stepped off the neutral ground to cross in the crosswalk. A speeding Honda Civic hit her so hard, she was thrown half a block. The 22-year-old behind the wheel, Adrian Caliste Jr., kept on going.
And he didn't stop. How do you do that? There's no excuse, and I will never forgive the man.
At least 9 others chose not to stop too. Surveillance video shows drivers swerving around Christina's body in the street. She was removed from life support and died March 2nd, 2021. Her injuries were too severe to even donate most organs.
And her eyes couldn't be used and her heart tissue couldn't be used. She had too much damage.
But the heartache piled on. As Larsen was planning her daughter's funeral, her killer was covering up his crime.
Well, there's still some unanswered questions that I have.
Police reports we obtained say Caliste first told police he was carjacked at gunpoint at Lafayette and Baronne Streets and signed an affidavit reporting his car stolen. But then police wrote, quote, during the interview, he changed his story several times and there were several inconsistencies with his story. Investigators discovered days later it was all a cover-up. Documents say Caliste was even caught on camera fleeing from his wrecked car moments after hitting Christina.
And he was arrested March 11th.
For 19 months, Larsen grieved the loss of her daughter while navigating the complicated New Orleans justice system. Caliste was free, out on bail.
It is debilitating. Debilitating. The grief is debilitating.
And turns out that 19 months waiting for a sentence is longer than Caliste will likely spend in prison. Because his crime is not considered a violent crime and he has no previous record, he may only serve about 1/3 of his 3.5-year sentence. 1 year.
Good time does that. Good time gives everyone in jail an incentive to follow the rules, because it will get them out of jail sooner.
Law professor Dane Cialino says eligibility for good time and how it's computed is sometimes changed by the legislature.
We saw within the last few years a trend toward lightening sentences, giving more good time. Now with the uptick in violence across the country, we're seeing the pendulum swinging back the other way.
But that swinging pendulum does little to comfort Krista Larsen.
The sentence is woefully inadequate. I mean, he lied to the police several times. He didn't stop.
While she says more jail time would have sent a message to hit-and-run drivers, Christina's case did come to a conclusion and a conviction. New Orleans police said only 2 of the 9 fatal hit-and-runs in 2021 ended in an arrest. There's no readily available data on how many of the 1,100 hit-and-runs were solved, but there are far too many to begin with, Larsen says.
My point is what can I do to move things in the right direction so another family does not have to go through this.
From more than 1,000 miles away, she's looking for ways to change the statistics. Larson has suggested blinking lights at crosswalks or even speed bumps along St. Charles Avenue might make drivers more aware of people crossing the street.
Let's make New Orleans better. Christina loved New Orleans. I mean, I love New Orleans. I hate New Orleans. I love New Orleans. I hate New Orleans.
At least, she says, she'd like to remind drivers of their humanity when they get behind the wheel, the responsibility we all have to the lives of others on the road and the families they leave behind.
In total last year, there were 6,845 hit and runs reported in New Orleans. There were injuries reported in about 16% of those.
My heart just breaks for that mother, really.
Yeah, and you think about how many other mothers and families in New Orleans, I mean, more than 1,100 people injured by hit and run drivers just last year.
And hopefully with this report that we will get some answers finally for some of those hit and runs. Terrific report, Devin. Thank you so much.